A man once said something to me during a counseling session that honestly stayed with me for a long time. He said, I love my wife deeply. She's a good woman. She supports me. She tries. Yet somehow, marriage feels very different from the way I thought it would be. And then he said something that was even deeper. He said, she's still the amazing woman I married, but honestly, things are just not the same between us anymore. That sentence, it captures the experience many couples struggle to put into words, and to be candid, that quiet emotional confusion is common in many marriages. People enter marriage expecting constant closeness, constant excitement, constant emotional connection, only to realize that after the wedding, something slowly begins to shift emotionally. Not necessarily because the love disappeared or because they married the wrong person. No. But somehow, marriage starts feeling different from what they imagined. The conversations change, responsibilities increase, stress becomes more visible, personality differences become clearer. And many couples quietly begin to wonder, is this normal? The reality is that many people prepare for the wedding, but very few people prepare for the emotional adjustment that marriage requires. Unfortunately, marriage does not remove stress. It does not erase emotional wounds. It does not automatically solve communication struggles. Marriage often reveals emotional patterns people did not even fully notice while dating. The habits, the expectations, the coping mechanism, the differences in emotional needs. And for many couples, that realization can feel surprisingly overwhelming. Hi, I'm Dr. Jane, a counseling psychologist, and welcome to Talk Time with Dr. Jane. Some of you may notice the channel name has changed, and honestly, I wanted a name that better reflects what we truly do here. Real conversations about relationships, emotional health, marriage, healing, and personal growth in a way that feels honest, safe, relatable, and practical. So whether you've been here for a while or you're just joining us, I'm so glad you're here. So today we are focusing on something many couples experience but rarely discuss openly. The emotional shift that many couples experience after marriage. Now, this emotional shift does not always mean the marriage is failing. Many times it simply means the relationship is transitioning from fantasy to reality. And honestly, that adjustment can feel emotionally confusing for many people. So let's talk about some of the reasons marriage can suddenly start feeling emotionally different after the wedding. 1. The fantasy phase begins to fade. Now, before marriage, many couples spend a lot of time anticipating marriage emotionally. So there's excitement, anticipation, long conversations, intentional effort, dates, multiple dates, and planning the future. But after marriage, real life begins to settle in. So you have work schedules, bills, responsibilities, family expectations, fatigue, of course, routine. And suddenly the relationship begins to feel less like anticipation and more like daily life. So that shift can be emotionally disappointing for many people, especially when they expected the marriage to naturally sustain the same emotional intensity forever. 2. Emotional differences becomes more visible. Dating allows people to overlook or minimize certain differences, but marriage brings in a very close proximity, and eventually your emotional patterns are revealed. Conflict styles become clearer, communication differences are clearer, emotional needs are clearer. One person may want frequent reassurance, the other person may struggle with emotional expression. One person may prefer discussing issues immediately, and the other may need time to process before talking. And honestly, many couples are not fully prepared for how emotionally different two people can be. Now, number 3 is the fact that responsibilities can quietly affect your emotional connection. Now, this is one of the biggest shifts many couples underestimate. Marriage introduces responsibilities that can affect emotional energy significantly. Financial pressure, work stress, pregnancy, parenting, household management, extended family expectations. Lord, there are so many. Unfortunately, many couples become so functional. They stop nurturing emotional intimacy intentionally and begin to function more as teammates rather than two people who are emotionally connected. And of course, teamwork is important, but marriage needs emotional connection too. And the fourth one is the fact that some couples stop dating each other emotionally. And this is also very important. Many couples continue loving their spouse, but they stop to intentionally nurture emotional closeness. No more deep conversations. The curiosity reduces, the playfulness disappears, the little moments of connection becomes less frequent. Then everything slowly becomes, what did you cook? Who is picking up the children? Oh, did you remember to pay that bill? Have you replied the other message? Just functionality. And responsibilities matter, but relationships need friendship, warmth, attention, connection to remain emotionally healthy. 5. Unspoken expectations can lead to disappointment, and this happens a lot. People enter marriage carrying all kinds of expectations, but they are not fully discussed. Expectations about communication, romance, gender role, sex, family involvement, finances, emotional support, daily life, conflict resolution, everything actually. And when reality does not match those expectations, disappointment quietly begins to grow. Interestingly, many couples do not even realize that disappointment is what they are feeling. They simply feel frustrated, disconnected, or misunderstood without fully understanding why. Then number 6, emotional disconnection often starts quietly. One thing many people fail to realize is that emotional distance rarely begins dramatically. It usually starts softly, gently. Less emotional checking, less affection, less intentional time together, less effort to understand each other, And over time, couples can begin to feel emotionally distant without fully noticing when it started. So emotional connection needs to be nurtured intentionally in marriage, not only during dating, not only during the honeymoon phase, but consistently throughout the marriage. Then 7, marriage requires intentional emotional building. Yeah, marriage is sustained by intentional emotional investment in communication, in friendship, in emotional safety, in understanding each other, in repairing conflicts. And honestly, many couples become healthier emotionally when they stop asking, why does marriage feel different now? And start asking, how can we intentionally build emotional closeness in this new season of our marriage? That question changes everything, because every season of marriage requires new level of intentionality. And if marriage has started feeling emotionally different for you recently, it does not automatically mean something is wrong with your relationship. Sometimes it simply means the relationship is entering a deeper phase that requires more intentional emotional awareness. The goal is not perfection. The goal is learning how to continue choosing each other intentionally, even after the excitement settles. Strong marriages are not built only through love feelings. They are built through emotional intentionality over time. And before I go, if you are a newlywed or preparing for marriage and you're trying to understand some of these emotional adjustments more deeply, I actually wrote a book called The Newlyweds Manual. It's a practical guide designed to help couples navigate some of these common challenges, expectations, and transitions that often come with the fresh years of marriage. If that's the season you are in, I believe this book will be helpful. I'll leave the details in the description and comment section. And if this conversation spoke to you, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And let me know in the comments, what emotional shifts do you think surprises people the most after marriage? I'd love to hear your thoughts.